Hello and welcome back to Simple Times Studios. I have another adventure set in the Grimmerspace universe created by Iron GM Games for your entertainment. The first in a short campaign. However, this time we will be abandoning the Starfinder RPG and working on a modified version of the Everyday Heroes rule system published by Evil Genius Games. Our protagonist, Robert Manus, is a tough commando sent on a simple assignment to find a missing teenager lost in the depths of the Endless Mall. But there is no such thing as simple in the Gliding Rim galaxy. Let's move on to the setting truths that define our adventure. This time we are back in the Grimmerspace setting, created by Iron GM Games. Specifically, we are on the Endless Mall on the moon of Diff, part of the Thriftic binary. Think of the Mall of America or the Mall of the Emirates. Now imagine a mega mall like that spread across an entire moon. That is the Endless Mall, a planet-spanning temple to consumerism where anything can be bought, including things that probably shouldn't be bought. Homebrew horror. The horror of this adventure is a homemade creature put together with the Everyday Heroes creature creation rules. It is not a canon entry in the Grimmerspace bestiary, nor is this a canon adventure written by Iron GM Games. Okay, next is the Orion Commonwealth. Mentioned several times in passing are the Sol Federation and Orion Commonwealth. These are parts of an original space opera setting I'm working on and don't impact the Grimmerspace setting too much at the moment. Truth Seekers. The Truth Seekers are a fan-made division of the Intercrux Interplanetary Police Agency, basically the setting's version of Interpol. The Truth Seekers specialize in investigating crimes and potential crimes involving the strange and unusual. They also occasionally help patrons hire mercenaries and adventurers for resolving issues concerning the same. A simple job. Our adventure for this entry is a simple find the missing persons quest. A simple and easy quickie assignment to find a missing teenager that was stranded down in an abandoned part of the Endless Mall as a prank. Experienced TTRPG players will know that this story would not be very entertaining if it was as easy as I made it sound. This is a horror game. As stated previously, this is a horror game. It will be spooky, or at least I intend to try and make it spooky. Reader discretion is advised. Rules and rubrics that will define our adventure. Our primary rule set is the Everyday Heroes RPG with the Technological Marvels rules from Vault Volume 1 to kit bash some science fiction weapons. At the time of writing, the Intergalactic Heroes rule set was not available, even in beta. Those rules will be included later as the adventure progresses. Next was the Solo Game Master's Guide by Geek Gamers, which will be used for oracles and other supplementary rules. And lastly, Robert will start his adventure at level 1. We'll see if that's enough. Adventure begin. Endless Mall Blues. Robert Manus thought he hated malls back when he was back home, walking around the upper level of some building he couldn't recall the name of in the Endless Mall of Diff. He realized he didn't hate malls anywhere nearly enough. The Endless Mall of Diff, in orbit around one of the capital worlds of the Thriftic binary, was definitely a class of its own. While the mall was not literally endless, a shopping complex that covered an entire moon roughly the same size as Luna back in the Sol Federation and extended dozens of stories above and below the moon's surface, was so big it might as well be. And from what he saw so far, they certainly crammed more into the megastructure than the human mercenary could ever imagine. The corridor he currently walked in was a cavernous thoroughfare lined by dozens of little boutique shops with sleek glass and white polymer furnishings, where the amount of empty space dwarfed the product on the shelf. Our proper, well-dressed clerks wore shoes that looked more expensive than Robert's entire outfit. Holographic signs were projected on the walls between store entrances, advertising everything from a sale going on at a store 3 levels down to vacations at a massive indoor ocean somewhere near the moon's equator. Robotic dollies helped shoppers carry dozens of shopping bags made of paper, plastic materials Robert never saw before, while the human mercenary had to watch his step to avoid tripping over the occasional circular janitorial drones vacuuming, mopping, and polishing the floor. It was a polished, posh, highly automated wonderland that made him stand out like a sore thumb. Dressed in obvious body armor and walking along with a laser carbine slung over his shoulder and a matching pistol on his hip, Robert imagined he wouldn't have gotten 5 feet without being stopped by security, except for the fact that security and mall management was already escorting him through the corridor. I am so glad the truth seekers could send someone to help us with this matter. Business hasn't been quite the same ever since the incident, the sector manager prattled on. Robert already forgot the corpo's name. The corporate manager was a Phasarian, a species of green-skinned humanoid robotics wizards that made up half of the Thriftic binary. And this particular Phasarian had a mannerism that made Robert's skin crawl. So how did this happen anyway? You mentioned that a kid was missing but didn't really elaborate past that, Robert asked. The Phasarian replied with a dismissive smile. A minor matter that is being blown out of proportion. Some Phasarian social media darlings brought a Gylorian teenager up to the Endless Mall, took him down to an abandoned section of the mall, and left him there as a prank. It was hilarious, one of their best pranks yet, the mall executive explained as they walked to a service elevator hidden in a small alcove near the level's robotic concierge booth. Say what? How long has the kid been down there? Robert replied with the slightest hint of rage. Inside he was fuming. The truth seekers warned him when they got him oriented to the galaxy that classism was a major problem between the Phasarians and their more impoverished allies, the junkyard mechanics and scavengers of Gylor, and that the Phasarians had a tendency to rely on their machines to do their thinking for them. But this was starting to sound unreal. How did someone have this little common sense or basic decency? Oh, there's no need for that hostility. Elroy, the teenager, has only been missing for 2 days. His parents have already been making enough trouble on social media. The executive's ability to undersell was doing an excellent job making Robert Manus angry enough to want to kick a puppy. All this automated security and you still haven't found him 2 days later? By the Forerunners, you are beyond useless, Robert thought before he steered the conversation to the task at hand. How many floors down from here is Elroy? What was the abandoned zone originally used for, and why was it abandoned? 50 levels down. It was at the time one of the most popular toy stores in this sector of the mall, a manufacturer outlet store for a company that specialized in robotic plushies and action figures, if I remember correctly. There was an incident 8 years ago involving a cyber attack. Unfortunately, I don't remember the details. However, my superiors would be very pleased with you if you managed to deal with any threats so we can finally reclaim it. The lime green humanoid smiled. Robert remained expressionless as he walked ahead. 1,000 in standard credits for the safe return of Elroy, so you can parade him around and pretend that you ever gave an Orion's butt about his safety. That was the agreement we hashed out with the rest of the Truth Seekers as a witness. Anything else, we're going right back to the Truth Seekers and writing a new contract with them as witnesses. The mall's executive smile dimmed for the first time since he took the mercenary on this tour. Won't you reconsider? Manus opened the elevator door and stepped halfway through the door frame. I'm not doing a full sweep and clear by myself for anything less than 3 times what we agreed on, especially if you don't have any idea what's down there, he said firmly, pressing the button for the floor of the abandoned toy store and closing the door before the manager could get a word in otherwise. As the door closed with an ominous hiss and started to climb down, Robert exhaled. There were so many things wrong about the gliding rim galaxy that were different from things in the Milky Way. But this assignment? 2 days in any major urban area in the Sol Federation, Elroy would have been found and sent back home. And the greaseball that hired Robert to clean up this mess would be looking at some kind of punishment assignment. If I ever see a Commonwealth fuzzball again, I'm apologizing to them. I hate this galaxy, he grumbled as the elevator continued its quick descent into the depths of the mall complex. Time seemed to slow to a crawl inside the cylindrical elevator car until finally It came to a stop and opened with a soft electronic chime. Robert drew his laser rifle and stepped out into the abandoned mall with his weapon raised and his index finger caressing the outside of his rifle's trigger guard. Almost immediately, his surroundings stood in stark contrast to the automated luxury above. The lights were still working and cast the abandoned toy store in a bright artificial light. But all the busy automation Robert had seen upstairs was absent here. So was anyone else. Giggles of joy, the screams of a temper tantrum, the sighs of long-suffering parents, grandparents, or nannies. It was all absent. Granted, he was told up front that this part of the mall had been abandoned, but it was still something else to see the empty store for himself. Not a sound except for the hum of electricity and his own breathing. And the empty store was massive. The elevator deposited him in a small food court overlooking the entire store. To his left and his right were cheerful snack machines humming with power. In front of him, hung over the store below him, were various colorful mascots suspended with microfiber cables to give the illusion they were floating above the store. A floor below him was the store proper, a disorganized maze of shelves and displays that looked like a complete mess with brightly colored boxes and damaged toys strewn across the floor. Off in the distance, marking the other three corners of the space, were three brightly colored play towers. All right, let's get on with the dice rolling. Does Robert spot anything unusual yet? I give it a 50-50 chance since I have no idea. 99 on the percentile. The oracle says no. Peering over the railing into the mess below, Robert didn't see anything other than clutter that could have just as easily been left behind by rambunctious kids as it could have been left by whatever shut this place down. Alright, now for the more important oracle question. Is Elroy alright? Again, he was trapped alone in a spooky store for 2 days, so I'd say it's unlikely that he managed without some kind of issue, especially given what I know is down here. 88 on the percentile, so the oracle says no, he's in some kind of trouble. That is definitely going to be a complication for later. Looking back around on his level, Robert saw there was a walkway that wrapped around the entire perimeter of the store, connecting the food court to the upper levels of all three play towers, as well as several spiral staircases leading down into the store proper. With nothing to lose and no idea where to begin, the tough human decided to risk the obvious approach. "Hello! Is anyone here?" he shouted, his voice producing a chilling echo as it bounced off the walls of the empty store. "Elroy! I'm Sergeant Robert Manus. I'm here to bring you back to your parents," he added with a second shout. Sergeant of what was a long story the kid probably wouldn't believe anyway, but maybe his old Soul Federation rank would trick the kid into thinking he was with mall security or something. Which was technically correct. He was a privatized security specialist, and the Endless Mall management was footing the bill for this little rescue and recovery operation. Robert expected a couple different responses, yet someone calling him on his pocket computer was not one of them. Pulling the vibrating device out of his pocket with his left hand, while still keeping a firm grip on his assault carbine with his right, he activated the pocket computer's communication function and mumbled about needing to install a scanner module. "Hello?" he began as he held up the pocket comp's speaker against his ear. "You need to help me, mister. I'm trapped in the left tower," a teenager's voice, presumably Elroy's, replied in 2 breaths. Before Manus could reply, there was a buzzing on his pocket computer, then a second voice, identical to the first, said, "Don't listen to him! He's trying to lure you into a trap. I'm in the right tower." The second voice replied, still frantic but more coherent than the first. Robert choked back a laugh and replied, "All right, so you want to play that game. I got 2 questions," he began, thinking of the best way to solve this puzzle and noticing what looked suspiciously like a security camera looking squarely at him from a perch above the elevator. "Can you see me?" "Yes," both voices answered in stereo. "All right, prove it." Show me you can see me from where you are. For a moment there was complete silence, then a slim humanoid arm appeared above the ramparts of the left play tower and waved. Even from this distance, Robert could see that it was a biological arm or a very, very convincing facsimile. The puzzle seemingly solved, Robert nodded. "All right, I see you. See you soon," he answered and ended the call. He had his answer, the closest he was going to get to one. Walking on the balcony that wrapped around the store, he made his way left towards the tower where he hoped Elroy was hiding. Occasionally he would look behind him or over the railing down into the store below and did not see anything. Nothing crept up behind him, and nothing seemed to be running parallel down yet below yet. Whoever was messing with his calm had to know he was heading towards the left. Halfway to the tower, he came across the first stairwell. Peering over the railing again, he found an open aisle empty except for the same clutter that littered the rest of the store floor. Taking his eyes off the aisle and checking down the spiral staircase to make sure the stairwell was empty, he looked back up and nearly jumped. There was no way he could have missed seeing that. That was a spider-like robot roughly the size of a large automated cargo dolly, the kind warehouses would use to shift pallets around. A humanoid android torso suspended on 6 mechanical legs. The upper half was an array of tool arms and mechanical tendrils studded with motorized tool bits. But it was the face of this motionless thing that shocked Robert the most. Someone, probably some idiot in some marketing department somewhere, crowned this walking toolbox with the face of what Robert could only assume was a Vazarian equivalent of a circus clown. Red eyes, a bone-white face with a faint lime-green tint, and that jack-o'-lantern smile. Robert wasn't sure even rigor mortis could make a humanoid jaw stretch that wide. That big, motionless smile with flawlessly painted teeth. Robert knew in an instant that he was going to have nightmares of that face for weeks. A tough human commando glared threateningly at the motionless machine, his rifle raised and his target sighted as he slid his index finger inside the trigger guard. Then the sound of something clanging on the floor directly below him forced him to look back down at the stairwell to his side. When he looked up, the robot vanished. "Son of a," he cursed before realizing where the robot would have disappeared to. He started running towards Elroy's hiding place. Going to make an endurance check of 1d20 plus 5 to see if Robert can sustain a full sprint long enough to beat the robot to Elroy's tower. 14 on the die means 19 total. Looks like Robert avoids the cardinal sin of indie horror video game protagonists and manages to run at a full sprint longer than a chain smoker. It's been a little while since he had to run in full combat gear, but Robert could feel it coming right back to him. Soon he was right at the tower. Elroy had seen him coming and started making his way across a narrow drawbridge that connected the play tower to the second-floor balcony. Robert's face fell when he saw Elroy slowly crawl on the floor and a large bump on his lower right leg. The kid had broken his ankle, or the robot had broken it. Either way, Robert now had to rescue someone that couldn't really walk under their own power. At first he reached down to try and help Elroy up on his good leg so the kid could lean against him. But as he did, the entire tower began to shake violently. Going to make an athletics check to see if he can quickly grab Elroy in a fireman's carry, then run. 1d20 plus 4 is 11. Letting his rifle dangle by his shoulder strap, he quickly tried to grab Elroy and carry him, but only succeeded in dragging the teenage Gylorian off the drawbridge and onto the balcony. The movement was apparently enough to stop the tower from vibrating. The robot must have been trying to get up through the play tower and realized it was too big to squeeze through the plastic tunnels. Aw, what are you going to do now, you overgrown multi-tool? All that murder robot anger, and you're defeated by plastic tubes and narrow stairways, Robert taunted as he tried to help Elroy up again. As soon as he said those words, he knew he was going to regret opening his mouth. Down below, there was the sound of many metallic feet clattering away from them and back towards the food court and the elevator leading back to safety. Then there was a sprong that echoed through the store. Robert felt his heart sink as he watched a giant metallic spider-bot effortlessly jump from the store below and land on the balcony. The robot was just far enough away that he could barely make out that nightmarish clown face turning towards him and tilting to one side before the rogue drone started running towards him at a full sprint. His training immediately kicked in. Robert raised his rifle to his shoulder and fired off a shot. And now we have combat. No surprise round, but Robert gets 3 rounds before the renegade robot novelty bot is in melee range. Psychobot gets a 4 for initiative. Robert gets a 14 on a D20 plus 2. Robert fires off a beam, single shot mode, with his laser ARC. 10 on a D20 plus 4 against a defense of 13. He does not hit. Robert's first shot narrowly missed the robot's torso as the creature continued to barrel ever closer towards him. The white beam of light scorching a nearby wall as the human trooper fires again. Round 2, Robert fires again. Again, single shot mode. On natural 20 on a 1d20 plus 4 against a defense of 13, that's a hit. He does 1d12 plus 2 damage for 12 after modifiers. The robot has 18 HP left. Robert fired again, his aim steadied and true. The laser beam melted through one of the robot's arms, causing it to spark and flail out of control as the robot continued to run ever closer. Seeing he was quickly running out of room and with Elroy unable to run, he let his rifle drop and dangle by his shoulder strap as he drew his laser pistol and fired. Last round before melee, Robert fires his laser pistol, gets a 6 for his trouble. Yeah, that's a miss. The beam went wide, completely missing the target. Robert cursed his luck. His opponent had been practically galloping over and was almost on top of him. He had one last shot before they were in melee. In desperation, he grabbed his dangling laser ARC and fired a quick 3-shot burst into the robot. Last shot before the robot gets a melee swing against Robert. Robert fires a burst at disadvantage. And he gets a 5. Miss. The shot went completely wild, somehow completely missing the target that was right in front of him and burning 3 new holes in the wall behind it. But he didn't have long to feel bad about it. The robot took a swing against him. Now it's Clownbot's turn. 1d20 plus 4 against a defense of 16. And the robot gets a 2 for 6. Revving up a small but sharp-looking circular saw on one of its many tool arms, the robot took a swing but telegraphed its attack with no subtlety at all. Robert effortlessly dodged with a quick step back and dropped his pistol before firing another 3-shot ARC burst into the robot right in front of him. Again, 1d20 at a disadvantage. And I get a 21 after modifiers. So that's 2d12 plus 2. I get a 12 for total damage. Robot Joker has 6 HP left. Sparks erupted as the Federation Commando blasted another burst into the robot's chest, smoke emerging from several joints. Badly damaged and apparently programmed with some sense of self-preservation, the robot took another jab at Robert with a power drill before attempting to step back. Clownbot hits with a power drill melee attack and rolls a 20 after modifiers. That's 10 points of damage before attempting to withdraw. Robert needs to make an armor save, which he narrowly does with an 11. Yay, proficiency bonus. The drill whirled with an electric whine as it hammered into his polymer body armor, making a large divot before the drill bit broke with a satisfying crack. Robert wasn't letting up, firing a shot from his laser rifle into the retreating robot. Robert fires again, getting an unnatural 20 on a 1d20 plus 4. He hits for 5 damage, and I'm just going to say it's a kill shot instead of having him chase after the robot just to do 1 more point of damage. Firing one last beam into the retreating robot, Robert must have finally connected with something critical, because at the moment the beam hit the target, the insane robot collapsed with a satisfying clang of metal on polished stone. Retrieving and holstering his laser pistol, Manus then turned to helping Elroy. "All right, kid, let's see what we can do about that leg, then get you home," he stated, his voice full of relief. End session.